Well, hey guys, thanks for joining me. I'm Sheila, by the way. Now, I know I told you you wouldn't be seeing me for a couple of weeks because last week was my vacation week, even though I wasn't going anywhere. I just wanted to get some things done. I had to renew my driver's license, pay my property taxes, and I wanted to give myself the gift of having my Jeep Livy professionally cleaned. Because for the last 2 years, I may have vacuumed it out once, but my knees just weren't trying to crawl into that thing and do all that stuff. Um, so yeah, I decided to have the Libby shampooed, carpets, seats. I mean, basically, $304 worth of cleaning. But, you know, I feel like I got gut punched by God because there was probably something he wanted me to do that I didn't want to do. And so, yeah, my vacation week turned out to be absolutely traumatizing. So, let me give you some background and then tell you what happened. Let's get on with
Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way. Every single day.
it. First of all, the grass people have showed up once again. I don't know what it is about me making videos and them people always showing up when I'm trying to do it. So, once again, I will use the noise reduction. It won't be perfect, but it's the best I can do because I don't have time to wait. So, let me give you a little background. I've had my Jeep Livy for 6 years, and I bought it from a buy here, pay here place. As a matter of fact, I have brought all of my cars, my Mercedes truck, my two Chrysler Seabrings, my Saab convertible. I had brought all of them from a buy here, pay here place because, and this is just me, because I was an independent contractor. And yes, I had been married for a time, but I was single for a lot of years. When you're an independent contractor and you don't go to work, you don't get paid. And your business usually fluctuates with the economy. I could not afford to have something go wrong and not be able to go to work or lose clients and have a real loan on a vehicle that they might have to come and get back. And then instead of having no credit, I would have bad credit. So it has always been my contention to stay away from credit like the plague. I never even had a credit card because I just didn't want to put myself in a position that could ruin me. Now, I have a credit card now. I just strictly use it to buy gas and pay it off every month. But that's because I have money in the bank. So I feel like the money is a safety net. Now, when Leroy and I were together, and it was two of us, I also was willing to spend more. We lived in the house of our dreams. We both had two cars, but it's because there were two of us. In case something went wrong, the other person can handle things until the person with the issue could work it out. But when I was single, there was not that. So I never put myself in a position where I could fail because you can't fail when you are a single parent. You cannot fail. Okay. Now, there are people that we have met, I'm sure you've met, who are having a problem in their life. They may have gotten evicted from their apartment. They may have lost their home, their car. They may be homeless. And then they tell you the story about what happened. But it all sounds so far fetched that you're looking at them side eyed going, yeah, right. Well, I am here to tell you that I am one of those people that far fetched stuff happened. And the only reason why I've been able to weather those storms when it happened was because one, I lived below my income, and two, I usually had a little something in the bank. Well, this is just another one of those instances where something so far fetched happened to me that it basically left me in shock and numb because it was traumatizing. So Now that we got that out the way, and feel free to judge, and I don't care, but at least I'm still here and I'm not living in the streets. And I've never lived in the streets and I've never been homeless because I ran my life the way I thought I needed to be as okay for me and my daughter as I could. So for my birthday, I treat myself to having my truck done. You know, when I worked, when I owned my business, all of my clients were in a 10 or 15-minute radius because I actually lived in a really nice part of town. I never had anything in my vehicles other than a bottle of water because I was going to be home soon. So, you know, why have anything else in the car? But when I went to Amazon, I had a 35-minute commute. So now I'm trying to, drink some coffee. I'm spilling that, on my way home from work. I pick up some onion rings until I got home to eat. So now I got crumbs. And one day I lost an entire cup of orange soda in that car that I'd never found. So I guess when they detailed the car, they probably finally found that cup and probably the orange stain that went along with it under the seats. So I drop it off at 9 a.m. and they tell me to be done between 5 and 6. Now this cost me $304. That's to do the interior and then $25 just to run it through the car wash afterwards. I didn't want it home cleaned on the outside. I just wanted to run through the car wash and wipe down. 5:15 I show up because I spent the day with my daughter and grandson because my birthday was on Wednesday, the 7th, and I turned 65. So we went out together and we had lunch and we had dinner and we did a little shopping and we got back to the car cleaning place at 5:15. So I go in and I said, "Is it ready yet?" They go, "Oh no, not yet. We still got a few things to do to it and we still haven't run it through the car wash. It'll be ready by 6. 10 minutes to 6, they come out to me and they say, "Have you had problems with your car starting?" And I'm like, "No. I mean, last year it didn't start because I needed the battery. I replaced it." Now, mind you, I've been using the same mechanic shop for 20 years, and they actually took very good care of my truck. Every year I would have an issue, but it was never more than $200 or $300. And if they saw something that would be an issue, they let me know. So the car was well maintained. It was just dirty. Okay. And I said, no. So they told me my car just stopped running. It wouldn't start. And I said, well, what happened? And the woman had the nerve to tell me, well, it's a 2007, it's 20 years old, it could be anything. And I said, could it be you got the wires wet? Because there is a 2-inch gap underneath my steering column before you get to the top of that panel. And behind that panel, and if you put your head down, you can actually see through that gap and see all the wires. So they take me back there and they have the panel down and he's in there fondling this and fondling that. And he's saying, this is aftermarket, this is aftermarket. And I'm like, well, what does that matter? Whatever it is, it's been there for the last 6 years and it hasn't been a problem. He goes, well, we think that might be the problem. I said, could it be you got my wires wet when you were doing all that shampooing? Do you know those people would not take responsibility? Not only did they not take responsibility, I mean, considering this all happened on their watch, they didn't even offer me a discount. I refused to pay. And then they wouldn't give me my key back, so I had to pay. And then they pushed my truck out the bay. Now, all this happened between 6 and 7 because I was not a happy person. I just spent almost $300 to get the car clean. Now I got to get it towed. Now I got to pay my mechanic to figure out what's wrong with it. And I'm going to have to rent a car so I can get back and forth to work until they can get the damn thing fixed. I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. So yeah, I pay them so they can push my car out of the bay and I call the tow truck. I called the tow truck at 7:15. Those people didn't come and get my car till 10:30 at night. Now, I didn't have to pay for the tow truck because it's part of my auto insurance, emergency road care. But 10:30, I waited 3 hours for a damn tow truck. My daughter had to go home and she had to come back because everybody had to go to the bathroom. I just toughed it out because I was not going to leave my truck there. Because one is private property. And I already called that woman outside her name. She would have had every right to have my vehicle towed if I wasn't there. I stayed there with my Jeep. So we get to my garage. As I said, I've been using it for 20 years. It started with the father, then the father retired, he became an advisor, and now his son was running. And I have never had any problems with him. I consider myself thankful to have a good mechanic in my life. And they have been servicing my cars for the last 20, 25 years. Tow truck driver is maneuvering the car into the parking space. I go in and roll all the windows down because when you get your car shampooed, you have to roll the windows down for 24 hours so the car doesn't get moldy and mildew because it's wet. Now I have to leave all my windows down and the car unprotected. Sure, it's locked, but all the windows are down in a parking lot in the alley behind my mechanic shop. So I decided not to leave the keys in the lockbox yet, because I'm going to come back. I decided I'm going to come back the next day and roll the windows back up. In the meantime, I hadn't even fed my dog. I had not even fed my dog. So my daughter's like, well, Mom, you want to go home and feed your dog? And I said, please. So we drive all the way back to where I live to feed the dog and, pick up some more clothes for me. And I forgot my glasses. So I can't take my contact lenses out because then I'm blind if I don't have my glasses. So I ended up wearing my contacts for 3 days. But here's the kicker. There's a note on the door. So I go look at the note because it's kind of faded. And it says, we are on vacation August the 11th to August the 18th. Mind you, it's August the 9th, which is Saturday. It was just my basic idea that I would drop the truck off Saturday. Monday, they could look at it when they came back from the weekend. I would give them till Wednesday to figure out what's wrong and fix it, and then I'd figure out a way to come get it. So I already knew I was going to rent a car from Enterprise on Sunday, which I got lucky because Enterprise really didn't open on Sundays for years. They only recently started opening on Sunday. So when I had to get the car towed, the first thing I thought is, oh my God, I can't even get a rental car until Monday. But we checked, checked the line just to be sure. And sure enough, they now have Sunday hours from 9 to 12. So that was something. So at this point, I'm stunned. I mean, I'm absolutely stunned. And I walked back to the truck, and my daughter's like, Mom, what's wrong? I said, they're on vacation. And my daughter's like, oh my God, Mom, for how? I said, till next week. I said, so now when I rent a car tomorrow, I'm going to have to rent it for 10 or 11 days. I don't know what the fuck that shit's going to cost. Excuse my language, but I was in shock and I was stunned. And that is how people get in trouble. A series of stupid ass events that they don't have the money to buy their way out of. And the next thing you know, somebody homeless, they lost their car, and people are judging them. Well, I'm here to tell you some of those stories that people tell you are probably true. Because I've had crazy stuff like this happen in my life before, but I've always been in a position to pay my way out of it. So we go and I feed the dog and we come back. And so I'm sitting on the sofa at my daughter's house. And I said, tomorrow, after we get the rental car, I want to find me a buy here, pay here place. I need to buy a car. But remember, I still don't have a credit card. And so we're going to look at some buy here, pay here places Sunday. And they all look like shit. Now, mind you, when I bought my Jeep 6 years ago, you could actually get a decent car at a buy here, pay here place as long as you were willing to spend more than $5 grand, but you still might want to trade it off for something else after 2 years, because after 2 years, God only knows what's going to happen. And so I've always done that. I've traded my cars off every 2 years, which is why I've had so many great cars. But the Jeep did so well that I didn't trade it off. Now, true, it had a problem once a year, cost me $200 or $300, but I just felt like that was reasonable considering it was an older car. But I had never had anything happen that was going to cost me this kind of money. Not just the car repair bill, but a renting a vehicle bill until I could get the car fixed. Now, I'm going to tell you, to rent a car for 10 or 11 days, you're talking about $1,000. And that's when I decided I was going to buy another car. Because I'm not going to spend $1,000 renting a car to go to a $14 an hour job. Now, did I ever rent a car when I didn't have to? Because most of my life, I've had 2 vehicles. But did I ever rent a car when I didn't have to? Yes, because when I owned that business, I made a hell of a lot more than $14 an hour. And I never had to rent a car with Amazon because of their liberal policies. But if I did have to rent one for a few days, I would have done it because I make damn good money at Amazon. But I am not going to spend that kind of money on a rental car to get to a $14 an hour job. So I had 2 choices: quit the job or buy another car. So rather than spend $1,000 on renting a car, I decided to add another 2 if I had to and put a down payment on something decent. Now, keep in mind, I don't have a credit union. So now, that Sunday night, I decided to stay another night at my daughter's because now I have to go to lots that aren't by here, pay here. And then, you know what? I didn't even go home Sunday. Dog didn't eat at all. Because at this point, my only focus is I need to buy a car. And part of the reason was the rental car they gave me was just like when I ride with my sister and my daughter. Their headrests bended, you know. And because I have a ponytail, I got to ride like this or I got to ride like this. And there was no way in hell I was going to ride in that rental car, not even for 4 days, uncomfortable. And I just decided I'm going to find me a car and take this thing back. So I find a place that says they will work with low credit. They didn't say bad credit and they didn't say no credit. They said low credit. And it had excellent reviews. What kind of car dealership has excellent reviews? So I said, I'm going to go. When they opened up at 9 o'clock Monday morning, I went. And I told myself I was going to give them 2 hours. If they couldn't work out a deal with me with my circumstances that I could live with, then I was going to leave. And there was one other place I was going to try. But I'm only giving everybody 2 hours because I'm on a time crunch because I have to be to work at 2:30. And as it was, I had to call in a couple of hours, use some of the what little protected PTO I had to cover being 2 hours late for work so I wouldn't get a half a point. Because at Walmart, you can only get 5 points in a 6-month time or you lose your job. And while you can have as much unpaid time off as you can, you have to do it before the schedule is made. So you can't call them and say, I'm sorry, my car is broken and it'll be 2 days before I can come to work. And they'll say, fine. But you're going to get 2 points. You see my point here? So no, I didn't want to quit the job, but I wasn't going to spend $1,000 to get there either. So I figured the best thing for me to do is to find a car. So by the time 11 o'clock came, and I want to say this, I can see why this car dealership has great reviews because they absolutely worked with me. They absolutely worked with me. This man showed me the car, which I didn't care. I saw the car I wanted. He, wanted me to look under the hood. I didn't care. He wanted to tell me all the features. I didn't care. He wanted to show me the inside, which was wonderful. I didn't care. The only thing I want you to tell me is, can you work with me? Because at 11 o'clock, I'm going somewhere else. So at 11 o'clock, he said, can you put $4,000 down? And I stood up. I said, no, sir, I won't. He goes, well, if you put 2 down, then we're going to have to extend the life of the loan for another year and a half. I said, will my payments be at the place I want them to be, which is right around $350? He goes, yes. I said, done. So in the meantime, we're getting all the paperwork done, and I'm getting ready to swipe my card, and my daughter calls. She goes, Mom, did you find something? I said, yes, I did. She goes, well, how did it drive? I said, I didn't do a test drive. And my daughter lost her shit right then and there. She goes, Mom, what happened? What's wrong? She goes, why would you do this? Why would you buy a car that you didn't test drive? I said, because I didn't want to. I just wasn't in the mood to test drive. I said, the car looks good. The people have a reputable reputation. And when I sat in it, my ponytail didn't make my head go. And that was all I needed to know. I had to hang up on her. But I understand why she felt that way, because this was not how I operated. All I knew is I was not willing to spend $1,000 to rent a car to get to Walmart. And since I knew I was going to have to replace that Jeep at some point, I didn't think it was going to be today, but I knew it was going to have to, well, then let's just do it now. So that's what I did. So once, I returned the rental car, and the dealership guy followed me in the new vehicle, and then I brought him back, and I went home. And on my way home is when I finally came out of that funk, when I finally came out of that disbelief and that numbness. I realized, oh my God, I really like this car. Oh my God, it rode so smooth. It handled so well. It wasn't noisy. It had all kinds of bells and whistles that the Jeep never had. I got a backup camera. I got remote start. It only had 99,000 miles on it. I paid $13,000 for it. But we're not going to talk about the interest, because that's nobody's fault but my own. The only reason why that bank worked with me is because I had enough money coming in and my overhead was low, in their opinion, to pay for that car. And I got a 2-year warranty. I absolutely love this car. So when I was driving home, my daughter called me and she's still upset. I said, look, go to the website, look at the car before they take it off the website since I bought it, and you tell me what you think. And so she did that. By the time I got home, she called me back. She goes, oh my God, Mom, you got so lucky. Mom, it's cute. She goes, the price was reasonable. I ain't tell her about the interest, and I'm not going to. I mean, she knows, but I ain't going to ever be specific, because it is what it is. But I got a great car, a car I really love. And so, of course, the insurance, they added $200 to my insurance. So now my insurance is $400. And I called them from the dealership. And I said, look, just go ahead and put the new vehicle on. And I'm going to call you tomorrow, because I'm not going to have time to talk to you now. I got to go home and get ready to go to work. So I called them the next day, and I told them to take the Libby off and put liability only and roadside assistance on it. That brought my insurance down to $300. And I said, also, that car is only a backup car. I'm never going to drive that unless the new car is in the shop. So they rated that Libby 1,000 miles a year and dropped the insurance another $20. So now my insurance is $280 a month. I can live with that. I can live with that. And that was my traumatic experience. But like I said, the only reason why I decided to tell you this story is because sometimes some crazy shit will happen to a person. And we found out Saturday was a full moon. Now, do I believe in that? Some yes, some no. All I know is I had the worst luck Saturday. And if I didn't have any money, I'd have been screwed. You understand me? Screwed. I wouldn't have had a vehicle. Or what if I didn't have the grand to rent a car? That probably, if all I had in my account now was just that $1,000 emergency money I've kept for years, it would have only been enough to rent the car. I don't even know, depending on when my paid stuff was, Would I had enough to pay the repair people when they finally brought their asses back from vacation? You understand what I'm saying here? It could have gone so badly. And when I specified how much I needed my payment to be, and I don't care if I have to pay for it for 20 years, but it needs to be at a special place because I need to be able to handle this out of what I make every month. I do not ever want to dip into my emergency nest egg to make a car payment. I had to be able to afford it with what I made every month. So there we are. And like I said, I didn't want to buy a car. I haven't had a car payment in 4 years. I took a lot of pride in being debt-free. But now that it's all over, I've just really loved the car. And had all of this not happened, I probably wouldn't have done it. You see what I'm saying? Because I didn't want any debt. But sometimes it makes sense to have some debt. And I just don't ever want to be in a position again where I have to rent a car to get to Walmart. I just don't want to do that. So there we are. And I love the car. And since I don't have time to do a tour or anything, I bought a 2016 Jeep Renegade. And I will show you a picture that the website had. Because when I went to go get a picture, they had already taken the car off the website because I bought it. So there was only one picture I could get. I'll show you that. If you're nosy and you need to know what it looks like, just look up 2016 Jeep Renegade. And I have the dark gray interior with the words Jeep in it. I call it rustic elegance because it's really, the inside feels way more luxurious. It's quiet, it rides well, it rides smooth, it handles well. It is nothing like my Libby. But then when I bought the Libby, I bought that to go camping. So I guess you could say, now that I'm retired, it's my retirement car. And it's still a Jeep. And you know what? Now that all of this is over, I am tickled pink. There we have it. Until the next time, take care, stay blessed. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.